Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this webinar with BT and Current Analysis. The webinar will last 45 minutes. The webinar will be recorded and we will provide the slides in the recording after the event. To ask a question, simply type in the chat box on the bottom right of the right-hand corner of your screen. Direct the question to the host and we will take some questions at the end. If we don't get to all of them, we will follow up after the event. The hashtag for this event is #NetworkLikeNeverBefore. And now I'd like to hand over to Steve to begin today's proceedings.
Thank you, Elaine, and welcome everybody to our webinar. I'm Steve Coakley from BT, and you're all very welcome. Our topic today is discover how to unlock the full potential of the cloud by developing a wide area network that brings your business into the digital age. And today, I'm delighted to have with me two industry experts, Joel Stradling from Current Analysis, who will talk about networks for the digital age, and Keith Langridge, VP of our Connect portfolio at BT, to talk about evolving your hybrid WAN to unlock the full potential of the cloud. Of course, you'll be at different stages of your network evolution, but the discussion we'll have today should resonate with you no matter what stage you find yourself at. Now, I'd like to start proceedings by setting the scene. Okay, the digital age. We're only now starting to understand the implications of the digital age, from the first industrial revolution through the second to the third, which in 2012 the economist said would transfer the way goods are made and change the politics of jobs, to what the World Economic Forum are now calling the fourth industrial revolution. But as recent events have shown, we're living in a time of change, whether that's political or social or technological, and it's no different for the organization that's our global society than it is for businesses today. We know that all organizations must connect reliably, be able to reach out to all, be protected from malicious intent, and not cost the earth to maintain. So whether it's the opportunities that the era of the big data revolution has brought, or the unparalleled connectivity that is the Internet of Things, which by 2022 Gartner predicts will save trillions of dollars, particularly in the area of smarter maintenance, or whether it's the seismic shift to cloud services, there's plenty to keep the modern CIO awake at night. At the most basic level, though, it's about the coming together of humans and technology in a new way to drive innovation. That's the digital age we find ourselves in, but the question is, how prepared are we? And the research that we have done would say, not very. If we were to look at the report that we have available on our website, this is the Digital CIO report. It would suggest to us that by highlighting this particular point, being prepared for the digital age can take many forms. One aspect of the report would suggest that 65% of organizations do not have an infrastructure that's capable of supporting the fundamental shift to digital. And it's not just the infrastructure that's struggling. So if every organization is becoming digital, the challenge we find is that in this other survey, and that's also extract available on our website, more than 60% of those surveyed who are running IT departments in Ireland were struggling to keep pace with technological change. So, to me, it's clear that global organizations are moving to cloud services, but that they still require the essentials of reliability, management of legacy infrastructure, flexibility, performance, and security from their connectivity. But all of this is in an ever more cloud-connected world, which drives the need for better control. So more than ever, organizations require an intelligent hybrid network to unlock their WAN for the digital age. And the good news is, and hopefully you'll hear that today, that you don't have to rip out what you already have to take advantage. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Joel Stradling from Current Analysis for his perspective on networks for the digital age.
Thank you very much, Steve. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining the presentation today. My section will talk about networks for the digital age. I'd also like to thank BT for giving Current Analysis the opportunity to present our findings and share insights with you today. So my name is Joel Stradling, and I'm a research director at Current Analysis within the Business Network and IT Services team. Today I'll be talking about the main trends in the evolution of IT and networks, and what those trends actually mean in terms of impact on the wide area networks. Then I'll share some research findings that have been made available to us by our sister company, Cable ICT, which is part of the global data group to which Current Analysis belongs. And then finally, I'll wrap up the presentation with some key takeaways in the executive summary there that will include some buyer-side advice for WAN services procurement or transformation of your existing WAN estate. So this next slide talks about two phenomena that we're witnessing in the evolution of corporate IT. The one on the left there is the democratization of IT spend. That refers to the fact that IT departments are now not the only stakeholders or budget holders in making IT decisions. We're seeing that different departments within corporations now have the possibilities to make a decision in where the IT budget goes. And that could be, the marketing department or sales. It could be management or financial or indeed operations. And so, in that environment, the IT department still ends up being responsible, however, to, fix things if they go wrong. And then on the right-hand side there, shadow IT. This is where, this is the phenomenon where we're seeing IT decisions that are being made for performing company duties that are not even sanctioned. They're not part of corporate policy. Things are going on that have not even been approved, and a lot of that could be consumer behavior driven. An example of that could be a social networking app, perhaps on a salesperson's mobile, that they're using to build commercial relations and so on, and other things that individuals could be doing within their business or on their laptop and handhelds to deploy applications, leverage the cloud and so on, that IT and the rest of the company have no idea about, and it's not really part of the policy. So this slide is the first one representing some of the research data points pulled from the Cable ICT 2016 study, and it's something that really underscores the points made in the previous slides about the democratization of technology. It displays results that we got back from asking respondents about purchasing decisions. And on the horizontal axis, so you've got different departments or department mixes involved with the purchasing decision. Either just the IT department or individual business units with IT guidance and so on, moving over to the right. And then the color-coded vertical bars correspond to actually technologies themselves, spanning cloud, video, voice collaboration, mobility, and network and security, and so on. Interestingly, from this study we've done, we've seen that cloud is one technology where the decisions tend to remain actually the remit mostly of IT units, whereas the tools like voice, video, collaboration, and so on, those buying decisions can often be strongly driven by individual business units with IT guidance. This next slide talks about 4 additional major technology trend areas that we've perceived to be receiving a lot of attention in enterprise networking and IT. Top left there, as a service models. We're also seeing a lot of attention on the right top there, public and private clouds, and a mixture of something between. Bottom left there, big data analytics, and then on the left, bottom right there, APIs, which we see as something that is really enabling the IT evolution. Fixed data networks, with regards to the top left, going back to everything as a service, so that's already in play very strongly, I think, in software as a service, the example being Salesforce, and also infrastructure as a service, being enabled by virtual data centers and so on. We think that data networks are still a little bit clunky and behind the times, but those models are really changing as software-defined networking, or SDN, starts to become more ubiquitous in the market as operators and developers launch those services that offer what I call a true network as a service, which means being able to flex previously rather static components of connectivity and data networks using software-defined networks and programmable networks. On the cloud side, the top right there, we're still seeing strong evidence of adoption. That's definitely continues to go on the up. One thing we're seeing there, though, is that the mix between public and private seems to be shifting sort of back and forth and more to one side and then less the other side. So the hybrid cloud seems to be the way forward, whereby some applications and some IT will remain on very private clouds if the situation calls for that. But then use of the public cloud is also a very viable option, especially when things perhaps are not as critical. On the API side, bottom right there, we think that this is revolutionizing the interfaces between customers, individual end users, and IT and networks, giving far tighter integration and control. Sorry, the final one there, big data and analytics on the left-hand bottom there. This is something we're just at the beginning, I think, in terms of harvesting the benefits. And that could include, for example, making more informed decisions based on real-time analysis of customer behavior. It also could help with real-time response to security threats and so on. But that's really the tip of the iceberg that we're seeing now for big data and analytics. And then the theme I wanted to sort of raise, or question I want to ask at the end of this slide, is the common theme for the rest of the slides to come, really, is the existing WAN solution that you have in place fit for task? Will it meet the new demands that these IT trends are sort of asking of the WAN? That could be demanding the network to change quickly, to scale bandwidth, different things. And so we'll ask that question, as we continue through the slides here. This slide here now on software-defined networking adoption. It's the second look. It's the second set of graphics or information that we've pulled from the cable survey, and it shows some of the main reasons and areas cited by companies where they have either already adopted or they're planning to adopt some form of software-defined networking. On the left-hand side, you can see some of the planned implementation areas, such as campus, cloud, data center, and WANs. And it can be seen that the higher percentages relate to cloud services and data center. And then on the right-hand side, the results show the clear leaders for SDN in deployments are IT process automation at the moment, and also data center network virtualization and private cloud. So those are the main implementation areas. It's our opinion at current analysis that SDN matures, it will become more of an underpinning force for companies to be innovative and to disrupt in their individual markets, as opposed to IT automation and processes. So we think that SDN and network function virtualization, or NFV, will actually be something that will empower businesses to be more competitive in their individual market segments. And again, so that just to repeat that common recurring theme here today is whether the existing enterprise WAN is in place to support some of these drives, to applying SDN to improve IT processes or make it all more automated, virtualizing data center networks and other parts of the IT stack, in fact. This set of data points, again pulled from cable, looks at the outsourcing of IT functions. What's interesting and relevant to the evolution of hybrid WANs is because we believe that as WANs become more sophisticated, and by that I mean that more remote configuration possibilities are possible, and things like automation and giving a single pane for ordering and provisioning and so on, as these come into play, then having major on-site IT resources may become less significant, giving more opportunities for enterprises to leverage more outsourcing. Just the results here, the question that we asked respondents was which IT functions are outsourced now and which ones might be outsourced in the next 2 years. You can see that management of IT functions is strongly outsourced as of today already, with the light blue there on the far left-hand side. But on the right-hand side, looking at applications and infrastructure, it's a far lower number. We did see on the service desk and support side, of those that keep that in-house today, over half are actually considering outsourcing that function in the next 2 years. And then again, just to again repeat that theme there is the existing WAN ideal for supporting the outsourcing of IT functions, which could mean remote management of various parts of the IT estate, including connectivity, apps, cloud, and so on. This is the final slide that where we share actually some results. In this data point, we asked the respondents about cloud computing solutions that are currently in use and those that are prioritized for investment over the next 2 years. So on the bottom horizontal scale there, you can see infrastructure as a service, software as a service, private cloud, platform as a service, and hybrid cloud, with the light blue on the left representing have now, and then the dark blue bar representing the next 2 years. And the interesting takeaway here, I think, is the significant interest in hybrid cloud adoption over the next 2 years, or something that's being prioritized for investment. I think it's also, you can also see that there is considerable emphasis planned for investment in infrastructure as a service as well coming over the next 2 years. And again, what does that mean for the WAN? If you'll be moving, or enterprises are keen to adopt more hybrid cloud services and more infrastructure as a service, what are the implications on the wide area network of that? So the next 2 slides will explore a little bit how the previous trend results that we've shared, and also some of the insights or opinions that we have about those trends actually will impact the traditional and legacy WANs in place. There are ever-growing demands made on existing WAN services. Those could be growing bandwidth, supporting perhaps more collaboration and video. The need to be more business agile, and that could mean being able to quickly and easily implement changes according to business need or growth. We perceive there to be some limitations to current vsMPLS VPNs to making such changes. Those networks were designed without really that framework in mind of being able to rapidly change things. This presentation today isn't about SD-WAN, software-defined wide area networks, or hybrid WANs versus MPLS. No, that's definitely not the case. We think the opposite is true. There remain to be many inherent positive traits in MPLS, and it's a very resilient, networking technology that meets a lot of tough demands and offers business-grade security. And we think that MPLS will do this and continue to do so. But we do definitely see a migration evolution towards hybrid WANs where some software-defined networking will come into play, as well as increasing use of perhaps public cloud and public internet for carrying WAN traffic. It's all the important points there about applications control and so on. The second point here is that for end users that need to grow or shrink the network in an agile fashion, the integration of acquired parties and seasonal changes that might require, or the desire to nimbly penetrate new geographies, and hybrid approaches and more software-defined networks will offer some, very positive attributes for achieving such objectives. And the continuation, this next slide is the final one that talks about demands on the WAN before we go over to some recommendations and the executive summary. Some apps will be jitter and delay sensitive. An example of that could be moving to certain hosted voice solutions. This could be a perilous IT journey without sound WAN engineering behind it, and that refers back to the applications control that I mentioned earlier. What happens if you migrate lots of apps over to a service as a service concept or cloud-hosted models, and then also perhaps if you've got shadow IT or the democratization of IT taking place within the organization, maybe you have 80+ applications in use, and some of them are running on private public clouds, some of them are on hybrid clouds, and the possibilities and capabilities to control all of those apps can explode, can blow up into a really complicated situation. So, does the WAN have all the appropriate mechanisms in place to manage those applications? And is it possible that shadow IT decisions might compromise security? This next slide is sort of a future view towards how we think SDN, NFV, and SD-WAN concepts are going to merge moving into the future. So they all share currently the same management and orchestration in a separate plane. But there's actual some merged parts we perceive here as marked on this slide here where SDN and NFV and SD-WAN, those concepts will start to share and blend into sort of one single. It could be a product proposal from a provider, or just from the technological standpoint, they won't remain very separate like that. As different companies implement and invest in such services, those grey areas, the sort of light grey ones where we've indicated that they are merging, they will sort of offer some commonalities as we move forward, and the next slide actually demonstrates that. So I'll just move to that one. So the top bit here, looking at SDN plus SD-WAN, what we are seeing here is that SDN plus SD-WAN means applications management being coordinated with all the underlying data planes integrated with that and orchestrated in one single pane that's also extended to the service management, so there'll be a single interface to be able to manipulate all the layers of the network stack for those optimized services, as opposed to some SD-WAN deployments today are kind of overlays, whereas, when service providers are investing in SDN actually within their POPs, within the core of the network, then we'll reach that stage where the SDN plus the SD-WAN functionalities and management will all be sort of blended together. And then the lower one there, NFV, Network Functions Virtualization plus SD-WAN, this means that virtualized devices or appliances will be able to handle various functions from access to applications control and other previously physical appliances, things like firewalls, WAN optimization kit and so on, all appliance-based hardware that has to be put on the customer premise. So those will become virtualized and be deployed as feature sets from within hybrid clouds, in our opinion. So that takes us up to my final slide for today. This slide is actually some EnterpriseOne recommendations from the buyer side, our advice to IT managers or IT procurement that will be looking to, push their existing WAN estate through an evolution or a transformation indeed to meet all the IT trends that we've discussed today. So these are the questions that you could be asking of your supplier and the themes that future-proof wide area network services should be solving. For example, things like applications visibility and control, including the same visibility and control for infrastructure as a service and hosted apps, so things that are running in the cloud, you can still see how those apps are performing and control them. We think that speeds and feeds are becoming less relevant, and what is more important, in fact, is the experience, the end-user experience on the desktop and actually applications response time. So a WAN that is currently being engineered or going through an evolution or a transformation needs to be engineered from the outset to support major use of the cloud, hybrid cloud environments and so on. And we think that it is a good time to have some early conversations with your provider about SD-WAN possibilities with some small and realistic objectives in mind. Once those initial baby steps have been made with some realistic objectives on a small scale and it works and some learnings can be extracted from that, then that's a good time then to actually look to do a larger scale implementation. So with that, I would like to, that completes my presentation. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope there'll be some questions at the Q&A session at the back. And now I'll pass over to Keith Langridge.
Thank you very much, Joel, and hello, everyone. My name is Keith Langridge. I run the Connect portfolio within BT, so that's the product management team responsible for our WAN and all our connectivity products across the UK and across the world. And speak with Joel on a regular basis to get his valuable insight into the portfolio and what we should be going forward, and make sure that we can make him aware of what we are actually doing. A few other some of the statistics from the same CIO survey that Steve mentioned at the head of the call. We asked a whole, I think it's about 1,000 CIOs surveyed, all sorts of different sizes all around the world, basically about cloud. And it's clear that cloud is really a major factor in taking hold. We see here in the top left-hand corner about close to 20% of organizations describing themselves as completely cloud-centric, with all their applications and infrastructure in the cloud. Actually, I find that quite a high figure. That was surprisingly high for me. 46% predominantly cloud-centric, with more than half of their applications and infrastructure in the cloud. So it's clearly taking hold. 58% of respondents cited cloud as driving the most profound change within their large organizations. And whether that's cloud planned from the CIO department in a sort of a managed way, or as Joel was saying, cloud that's sort of delivered from shadow IT as an independent department has moved, I don't know, maybe the marketing team, sales team has decided that they'll just buy themselves some Salesforce licenses using credit cards and claim it back as incidental expenses because they're not really happy with the overall services being offered for sales support tools on the CIO organization. But what that flags up, as has been mentioned by Joel, is security. And are those kind of activities actually opening up security flaws into organizations, which the CIO, of course, has to go back and explain to the security authorities as to how he's got in control of that. So security is being flagged as one of the key things in installing cloud take-up. I suppose the most useful and interesting stat that I got here is 65% of organizations report their current infrastructure is struggling to support the rapid digitalization of technologies. And that's really where we've been working within BT to try and work out how we can help our customers on their networking route to the cloud. So you'll see here our cloud of clouds vision. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a few minutes in order to take you through that and explain to you how it's built up. But the key for us really is to provide our customers with choice in order to get to the cloud. And whether that's choice over route to the cloud, MPLS or internet networking, or whether it's choice as to how to take your cloud services, whether to take them from an integrated environment under a single service surround, such as BT, or to assemble them from a number of different providers around the world. Three key things we're trying to work on, really. One is maintaining that security and making sure that security is vital and is not prejudiced or breached as moved to cloud. The second element is around performance and making sure that move to cloud doesn't mean a degradation in end-user performance. And whether those end users are our customers' customers or whether those end users are our customers' employees, key thing really is keeping that satisfaction level up. And then the third main element is simplicity. Large global deployments of mixes of internet, MPLS, to a number of cloud providers with private and public hybrid cloud solutions, and voice solutions determined from a number of locations can become very complex to manage and complex to drive the performance from. So key for us is keeping those three things in mind. So if I start on this, really, when you look at connectivity in the past, and as Joel mentioned, it's been very much around MPLS networks, with MPLS networks sitting in the middle. So you can see a BT network in the middle there. Primary networks we provide both within the UK and globally and used by our customers are MPLS. And what we've been doing for many years is connecting our customers' end-user locations, whether that be their sort of the branch offices, their manufacturing locations, their headquarters buildings, etc., back to their data centers. And in those data centers, customers have been running their applications and have also been breaking out to the internet by heavily firewalling and doing policy protection, etc., and making that the internet access point. And many of our customers are telling us that it's around 60%, maybe 70% of the traffic that's actually running over that MPLS network is destined for the internet. And quite often, the structures like that create tromboning effects, where traffic comes from one part of the world to a data center, breaks out to the internet, and then makes its way back over the internet to the other part of the world for where it actually needs to get to. So three main things we've seen driving a customer's change. The first thing is data center consolidation, with organizations saying, well, hang on a minute, I don't want to specialize on power, air conditioning, cooling, etc. I'll take that from somebody who specializes in that. And organizations like Equinix are very large in terms of providing that kind of space. The second thing we're seeing is a rise in hybrid networks, with customers saying, we've got an increase in traffic. How am I going to carry that traffic? Should I be looking to use the internet as a way to offload some of that growth? Because if that growth is all on MPLS, it looks like it could be financially unsustainable. And the third thing, of course, is the move to cloud. So looking at the first two here, The first thing we've done within BT is to link up our own data centers onto our MPLS network, enabling customers to do data center consolidation either at the physical level by taking a cage or a virtual level, by taking a virtual hosting service. We have virtual hosting services available in 22 of our 44 physical data centers located around the world. And again, the traffic patterns there just go from the customer's end users, again, instead of back to their own data center, onto our data center on the same MPLS network. Good for security, good for simplicity, and also maintaining performance. The other element you'll see here on the bottom left-hand side is the internet. And so this is a typical hybrid network solution where you have customers taking internet local breakout as well as MPLS, dual links in one location, and taking the internet-bound traffic or the key growth of traffic off at a local point. But what does that bring in? I suppose what that brings in, though, is security issues. And you'll see the need for the little padlocks there, because if you're actually breaking out to the internet at 100 or 1,000 locations around the world, rather than sort of 3 or 4 main data center locations, you've significantly increased the attack space that is available into your organization, and you've opened up a whole load of back doors you need to make sure are securely locked down in that. So onto that, we've added what we call our BT Assure portfolio through a combination of managed firewalls, cloud-based DDoS protection, etc., to ensure that there's a number of solutions that can help our customers as they decide to move to that hybrid way forward. But I suppose the thing that we can also say here is that the key thing we've identified is that it's not just BT's cloud-based services that people want to access. Actually, there are some big ecosystems out there building. Microsoft around Azure and Office 365, Amazon around web services, Oracle with their infrastructure as a service, platform as a service. Also Equinix, I mentioned, in terms of data centers, and applications such as Salesforce and Office 365 being available over the internet and over the networks. So what we've done is we've linked our MPLS networks up to these key cloud service providers. And instead of you routing your traffic to the right to your data center as a customer, or routing it to the top right to BT's data center, you can now very easily just route that traffic over MPLS to the left-hand side and connect in with your own private hosting environment you've taken within Azure, or your Amazon Web Service space, or you can link in with your Salesforce service. And again, that means you get the benefit of cloud, the size, the scale, etc., but you don't have to worry too much about the performance. You don't have to worry too much about the security. Hybrid networking is still there, of course, and the internet can give you access into all of these. And again, the kind of thing you need to be thinking about there is, well, at that bottom end part of here, the customers and end users, what is it that's actually going to be routing my traffic and making sure we've got the best solutions there? And I'll cover that in a short while. But let's just complete the picture by adding in cloud collaboration services. So again, a lot of the growth on networks is being driven by collaboration services, whether these are contact center services or Skype for Business or Cisco Unified Comms. And again, we've linked all of those onto the MPLS network, enabling you to be able to move to those services, move away from your branch-based telephony solutions without necessarily the need to put everything on the internet. But the internet availability is always there. And key things there for this is our advise capability, where basically this is now a complicated picture. It's a complicated picture for all organizations. And our advice consultants can actually help decide with you which is the best route to go. Every one of our customers starts from somewhere different, and quite a lot of them want to get to somewhere different as well. And the take-up of cloud, it brings its own challenges. So if we have a look at a couple of customer scenarios who are doing this, the first one here is a financial services company. And an international firm needed guidance on a strategic project to migrate their CRM system into the cloud. Their business needed to be totally PCI compliant, and everything they do connects to third-party online services with no exception. So the solution here that our customer used with us was to use BT's contact capability to connect securely, mapping existing MPLS class of service parameters on their existing MPLS network to enable them to take a hosted cloud solution from BT for contact management services rather than using the public internet. So all of that stuff stayed on MPLS, no internet-based access, performance and security guaranteed. And that's sort of the cloud at the top of the picture I was on. A second example we've got here is a retailer, a hybrid WAN solution, combining business-grade internet and easy visibility to enable internet to be brought into the picture, to give a benefit in offloading capacity to the internet, but also the benefit to enable growth. So, talking about hybrid WANs, really what we're looking at here is a question of balance. In talking about internet versus MPLS technologies, very few people are going one or the other. It's a combination of where you can bring them into the best. You've got to manage performance and agility with security, and you've got to think about the scale and the number of locations you're connecting in, and you've got to think about optimizing the cost. And there are different flavors of internet connectivity. There's public internet broadband that you would use at home or buy as a general business service. And then there's dedicated internet access, where you're actually getting an uncontended access line directly into a large internet backbone cloud. And that internet backbone cloud is tiered with where you need to go. So there are flavors of internet service. And of course, they've all got different performance elements. They've got different security elements. They've got different cost elements and also scale in terms of where they're available. Here's an interesting study for us, ABB. ABB are a sort of a world leader in power and automation. And we've linked 700 locations in over 100 countries for ABB. And the key thing they were looking for was a single global partner to standardize and manage their network. They saw their traffic demand was growing, and they wanted to work out how they could use internet services in order to take that growth and lower their demand upon ever-growing MPLS. So we've designed for them a sort of a hybrid network with a combination of internet. It's mostly high-quality, high-grade internet, so dedicated access onto an internet backbone. They were really keen on where our internet backbone was paired with, so to make sure that we're going to get good performance to the key areas their traffic was going. And they've now got 140 employees using this capability. Now, they're also using something from our portfolio called Connect Intelligence, and Connect Intelligence enables the services to be routed to the best path that's available to enable the best performance to be improved. And one of the examples we have for a service that does this, it's an SDN and an NFV type capability, is Cisco Ione. And a managed IWAN, which is a service we provide, gives sort of four main functions. Firstly, application visibility, so you can see what's happening in your network. So you're using these hybrid networks, but you can see what the actual impact on your traffic is. WAN traffic balancing. So WAN traffic balancing enables the best route to be taken dynamically based upon what's happening on your network in terms of traffic demand, but also what's happening on, say, the public internet or your MPLS network. Optimization and acceleration enables you to bring in a feature that will compress traffic and give you better performance, take out latency in applications to give better performance. And then localized caching will drive up application experience for HTTP and stop you having to carry so much traffic backwards and forwards over the internet. And an IWAN as a managed service enables you to take any one or two or three of these as you actually need and use them as you see fit in order to get the best out of a managed network. And I suppose the biggest deployment that we're running out at the moment on this is Walgreens Alliance, where we've got around 3,500 branches we're driving out across the UK, across Ireland, and also across other parts of the world. And their real challenge was to reduce costs and also to ensure they had the appropriate technology that they could keep their key applications running at the time with variable bandwidth demands in shops with both their employees and their customers using their network links in some way because they provide sort of in-store Wi-Fi, etc. And what they're using IWAN for is to provide the application visibility so they can see exactly what's coming out of every store and then prioritize the traffic and the applications. So the important ones are using their MPLS circuits to provide high class of service in order to get that performance through. And their less important ones are effectively taking the back of the queue on the lower class of service on MPLS. So anyway, I hope that's given you a bit of a brief overview as to some of the issues and some of the opportunities around using the cloud, exploiting the cloud and hybrid networks, and what your networks have to do. So I'll hand back to Steve.
That's great. Thanks, Keith. And I think just to conclude on the points that we've covered here, I think from what we've heard this morning, that we need to consider how to take advantage of the latest cloud services without compromising on our class of performance and service levels is key. We wish to evolve our WANs to regain control of the cost-performance balance, and Keith just mentioned that. And the use of application visibility and control to make informed business decisions is an important thing, and that was, I think, exemplified in the last case study. But what I'd like to do is really thank Joel and Keith for sharing their insights and real-world experiences today. And I suppose in summary, we've heard about the fact that infrastructure is largely unprepared for the shift to cloud. There are challenges with shadow IT, but it's interesting to see how SDN will support businesses becoming more disruptive in the future. So to summarize, I'd say that organizations are becoming, are having the need for a network that's like never before, and we've provided information on our landing page, which you'll see the link to here. And please go to the link and find out more. Some of the surveys we've discussed are there, and more information and video is available for you to see at that point. But before I go to questions, I just wanted to mention one more event that we're running. That's our BT Mindshare Business Breakfast. There's an excellent speaker, Graham Hackland, the IT Director at Williams F1, who will be speaking at that and is well worth making time to hear from. And please contact me or your account manager for an invitation. So with that, I'd like to hand back to Elaine for questions.
Thank you, guys. Very insightful indeed. I'm sure you'll all agree. We've quite a few questions coming in, so we'll now take one or two from the audience. So this one, Joel mentioned that the trend suggests a growing requirement for outsourced managed services, including network management. What is the panel view, therefore, on the likely uptick of DIY network offerings from cloud providers? And approximately what percentage do you think? And that's to the panel.
I'd be quite happy to take that one. It's Joel speaking. I think the purpose or the suggestion of the research was not precisely that there's a growing requirement for outsourced managed services, but indicated that there was a priority, or it looked like there would be an interest in moving to more outsourced functions, including management, over the coming 2 years. Now, it could be the case that there could be a growing requirement for managed services, but that very much depends on the profile of the actual organization that's sort of perhaps pursuing a transformation path. So the suggestion or the indication of the insight that I was intending to share with the slide that showed that information was that moving to, let's say, an all-IP or a digitized, transformed WAN that could be a software-defined wide area networking solution might support a desire to move to more outsourced managed services, because a remote technician or the partner that is actually doing that managed outsourcing on behalf of the company has the tools in front of him to be able to sort of do that. Those exist today as well. But I think there'll be more agility enabled with that type of software-defined WAN, for example, moving forward, or a hybrid WAN solution. In terms of the percentage of adopting DIY network offerings from cloud providers, I think that would be very low. That's my impression. You know, I'm sort of throwing out a number on gut feeling as opposed to based on hard facts. But I think that a lot of companies will try DIY networking offerings from cloud providers. But I don't think that cloud providers are perhaps ideally suited to pass over control to a network to, or perhaps that companies moving forward will want to be embroiled in perhaps complex DIY networking decisions. Maybe they would do that. That could be a corporate cultural thing. And if there are internal IT capabilities to do that, then why not? And that's all I had on that one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joel. And one more question, and this one's for Keith. What are the business benefits do you see of a hybrid WAN?
Okay, so I suppose what are we seeing for most of our customers at the moment from hybrid WAN? Customers are seeing growth in traffic, so there's far, far more traffic growth that's needed, and they're seeing hybrid networks as a good way to offload that traffic locally at source, so that they can keep their MPLS networks, their high-quality networks, free, so to speak, for the applications that really need that good quality and that security, and offload that traffic growth in bandwidth. So really it's the avoidance of growth of costs. And also sort of an application performance capability. By moving to a hybrid network and you know, going from an old MPLS, one side live, one side hot standby,